This extremist liberal human rights ideology is set to destroy the human race itself. And Islam is the only religion and the only community that is pushing back and saying, no, we want to preserve our marriages, our families, our community, our humanity. We don't want this never-ending nightmare of human rights. I'm arguing that Sharia law is superior to human rights because Sharia rule preserves marriage and family. Okay. Okay, do you value marriage? Do you value family?
You actually study and look at the outcomes of their teachings, the outcome of their morality, you'll understand why those people are the most miserable people they could be.
Muslim apologists often argue that Islamic moral values are superior to Western moral values and produce better societies. Blood money, Diyyah, and how Islam values human life. Did you know Islam values the life of a woman, half of that of a man? In traditional Islamic jurisprudence, the blood money, Diyyah, for a woman is generally considered to be half of that for a man. This ruling is based on interpretations of Islamic law by classical scholars and is found in the fiqh, jurisprudence, of the four major Sunni schools, Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi'i and Hanbali, as well as many Shi'a legal traditions. Hadith and scholarly consensus, ijma. While the Quran does not explicitly state the Diyyah amount for men and women, classical scholars derive this ruling from hadith and legal precedents. One narration states, Imam al-Shafi'i and Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal referred to reports from early scholars and companions of the Prophet, such as Umar ibn al-Khattab and Ali ibn Abi Talib, that the Diyyah of a woman is half that of a man. Classical scholars cited narrations from the Prophet's companions to uphold this principle. Analogical reasoning, qiyas. Some scholars reason that because a woman's testimony in financial matters is counted as half in some cases, such as in contracts, Quran 2:282, the same principle applies to Diyyah.
I have my wife on my right. Assalamu alaikum. Hope you well, inshallah. She's not going to be in the video, but she's going to have her say with this whiteboard that I bought her. But why is the default that the woman is innocent and the man is always guilty? Okay, that's something my wife wants to say. Salama probably had enough as women give a lot of chances, has zero tolerance now.
Diyyah for a slave. A hadith reported in Sunan Abu Dawud states, the diyyah of a slave is based on his value. This means a slave's diyyah is not fixed like a free person, but is instead based on their market value at the time of death. In practice, some scholars estimated a slave's diyyah to be half or less than a free man's diyyah. Interestingly, the value of a Muslim woman's life according to major Islamic schools of thought is equal to that of a slave. Hadith on non-Muslim Diyyah. A hadith from Imam al-Shafi'i states, the blood money for a Jew or a Christian is half of that of a Muslim. Sunan Abu Dawud 4546, Tirmidhi 1411. Some other narrations suggest that diyyah for a non-Muslim, dhimmi, a non-Muslim under Muslim rule, was 1/3 or half of a Muslim's diyyah. Allah in the Quran doesn't believe in the intrinsic value of human life. Instead, He discriminates the value of life according to religious creed, gender, and social status. Key Quranic verses on Diyyah. Surah An-Nisa 492. Diyyah for accidental killing. It is not for a believer to kill a believer except by mistake, and whoever kills a believer by mistake must free a believing slave and pay diyyah, blood money, to the family of the deceased, unless they remit it as charity. Surah Al-Baqarah 2:178. O you who have believed, prescribed for you is legal retribution, kaisas, for those murdered, the free for the free, the slave for the slave, and the female for the female. But if the killer is forgiven by the victim's guardian, then blood money should be paid fairly, and the killer should be treated with kindness. From these Quranic verses, we can see that Allah discriminates the value of human life and demands an eye for an eye retribution. This extends to the killing of the innocent, the slave for the slave, and the female for the female, showcasing His contempt for the value of the lives of slaves and females. Blood money, Diyyah, pre-existed Islam in pre-Islamic Arabia. It was a well-established tribal custom used to settle cases of murder or injury and prevent cycles of revenge killings. However, it was often arbitrary, unequal, and dependent on tribal status. Allah, with all his wisdom, adopted pre-Islamic nomadic norms and incorporated them into Islam. Instead of making these laws just, cartel the value of human life on social status, gender, and creed, conveniently just like nomadic tribes telling the story, then prescribes these 7th century Arab customs for all peoples and times as moral absolutes. And if this wasn't bad enough, Islamists demand unconditional and blind obedience to these silly, immoral lies and provocations.
Your spouse. You can lie to your spouse.
But can they lie in the context of, for example, if one says, "Oh, I sense that you've got a second wife," can he say, "No, I don't"?
Yes, you can. You can say that.
You can say that.
Yes, I personally believe this is the Prophet said you can do it.
Where a child can
No, but
be in a family surrounded by loving family members, his father, his wife, maybe a co-wife, cousins, aunts, uncles, all that's a beautiful, stable family, very high fertility. This is the beautiful example of family life that Islam promotes.
I'm like, what the hell?